So welcome to part 2 of our discussion regarding chapter 5. So now we started to discuss goals in our last video. So now let's talk about SMART goals. SMART literally stands for specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and target dates. So now, why is this important? Just to review, so goals need to be stated in specifics. The example that I gave you in the previous video was saying the difference between saying as many planes as possible should arrive on time versus 90% of planes should arrive within 15 minutes of the scheduled arrival time. That is specificity, and it's so important when you're making your goals. You also want to make sure it's measurable, right? So whenever possible, goals should be measurable or quantifiable, as in the previous example that we went over, right? When we say 90% of planes should arrive within 15 minutes. So that's measurable. That's actually something that you can measure. You can take the aggregate data and you can break it down, and you can determine what percentage of your planes are actually arriving within that specific or allocated or allotted amount of time. So there should be some way to measure the degree to which your goal is being reached, right? So that's the object of doing that particular measurable item. So, but what about attainable? Goals should be challenging, of course, but above all, they should be realistic and attainable. It may be best to set goals that are quite ambitious so as to challenge people to meet high standards. Always, however, the goal should be achievable within the scope of time, equipment, and financial support that's actually available. Only a few goals should be chosen. When you're discussing results-oriented, my apologies, I've just started talking and went on into the next line item without letting you know. So now we're discussing results-oriented, right? So now only a few goals should be chosen at a time. Say, if you have a long list of goals, you should actually try to narrow down, say, 5 for any work unit. And we're talking about organization or business, right? Not personal goals. But these are all applicable to personal goals. You'll just need to break down the times or break them down a little bit differently. So, but if we're talking about a business, let's say for 5 goals per work unit, and they should be results oriented. They should support the organization's vision. Target dates. Goals should specifically or specify the target dates or deadline dates when they are to be attained. For example, it's unrealistic to expect an airline to improve its on-time arrivals by 10% overnight. However, you could set a target date for approximately 3 to 6 months away, say, by which this goal is to be achieved. So you can measure that and set your targets dates in ways to where they can be met. You don't want to be unreasonable with those. So now you have your plan, you have your goals, you know. So, but it's one thing to be self-motivated. Or to be the source of your motivation. But what about when you have to motivate others? So as a manager, this is definitely going to be an item that can be challenging, but it's all about how you handle it that can mitigate some of that friction that can occur. So it's called Managing by Objectives, otherwise known as MBO. It was first suggested by Peter Drucker, and that's a name that you'll hear a lot in business. In approximately, I think it was about 1954. Management by objectives, otherwise known as MBO, has spread largely because of the appeal of its emphasis on converting general objectives into specific ones for all members of an organization. Now, the purpose of MBO is to motivate rather than to control subordinates. The three types of objectives used in MBO are listed. They're going to be listed on the next slide, but it's very important that you're familiar with the four-step process and that you truly understand that it's not about controlling people, but it's definitely about motivating them to want to be your team player or be part of your team in an actionable way. So now the three types of objectives that are used in MBO would be improvement objectives, where the purpose is to express performance to be accomplished in a specific way for a specific area. There's personal development objectives, and the purpose of that is to express personal goals to be realized. And then there's maintenance objectives, right? And that the purpose of that is to express the intention to maintain performance at previously established levels. So now the book will give you really great examples of this. The examples that are listed on the slide are very small, so you may have to read into it a little bit more, but if you get into the book, you'll get some better examples. Well, what about cascading goals, or making lower level goals align with the top level goals, right? So now objectives are structured in a unified hierarchy, becoming more specific at lower levels of the organization. Commitment, right, is when top management commitment to MBO was high. You know, the book lets us know that when the top level management commitment was high, the average gain in productivity was 56%. But when the commitment was low, the average gain was only 6%. So we see that there is a large margin there that of employees that are affected depending on higher employees level of commitment or top management level of commitment when it comes to goals and actually bring them into fruition. So now we also have organization-wide goals, right? So now the goal-setting program has to be put in place throughout the entire organization. That is, it cannot be applied in just some divisions and departments. It has to be done in all of them. Okay, so now cascading goals is where the top manager sets strategic goals which are translated into divisional goals, right? So you're literally cascading across the company that one main goal, giving each division of that company a goal to reach in order to get to the main goal. Now, the translated divisional goals, those are actually going to be translated again into departmental goals, right, which are translated into individual goals. Now, the cascading process ends when all individuals have a set of goals that support the overall strategic goals. This process helps employees understand how their work contributes to overall corporate success. So now, last but not least, what to expect on a class and how to prepare for class. So it's going to be very important that you're ready to begin a group project. We will be working on a project in class and be able to discuss the contents of Chapter 5. It would also be good if you start thinking about and find a company and visit their website and locate their mission statement, vision statement, and value statements. Now, it does not matter if it is a service company or a production type company or retail company. Just find a company that interests you. Now, you also want to try to find a clear business model at that website and any specific recent strategies that may have been implemented. Okay, guys, that's it for now. I can't wait to see you in class so we can discuss Chapter 5 further. Good luck and see you soon.